Spring is finally here and the weather is starting to warm up, and that means swim team has started. Unfortunately, the weather and the water have not quite realized it is spring yet and they have not warmed up. So I wanted to make sure my kids had something big and fluffy to wrap around themselves to warm up with while we hang out at the pool. This is She's Making Something, and today I'm making my own DIY hooded towels with hand pockets. I know there are a lot of options to buy hooded towels online, but I wanted a bigger size with a larger hood because my kids are getting bigger. So we headed to Walmart to let the kids pick out whichever towel they wanted for a decent price. Then once they picked out what they wanted, we went around the corner to find some hand towels in coordinating colors. So all I needed for each towel is a beach or pool towel in whatever size and color, and then a coordinating hand towel, which these ones measured 16 by 26 inches, and also some thread. The pool towel is not going to be cut, it'll be left exactly as it is, so I set that aside and focus on the hand towel, which I have pre-washed and it is ready to be cut and sewn. I have seen a few different ways to turn a hand towel into a hood. The most common one is to cut it in half, and you actually have two pieces to make two hoods if you wanted, and then sew the cut edge together. Then that bottom edge is sewn onto the towel and you have a little hood. This method leaves you with a seam running along the top of the head, and I don't really like that, so I came up with another way. You don't cut the towel in half, instead you just fold it and then sew up both of these sides. Then once those are sewn, you tuck one edge inside so that both the seams are together at the back, this side sewn together, and then on the inside is sewn together, and this makes an enclosed seam. And then this fold is the front of the hood and it's thicker, 2 layers. And then both of these bottom edges are sewn onto the towel. And you have a hood like that. I have used this way before for toddler bath towels because I like the seam being in the back of the head. But both of these methods give you a hood that's only half as deep as the towel, which is great for toddlers and younger kids, but my kids are getting bigger and want a deeper hood. So instead of cutting it in half here, because I don't like the seam on the top, so I'm going to cut it this way. So I find the halfway point and extend it a few inches, and that will be my cut line, which will form the back of the hood. And this already finished edge will be the front, and then this will be the edge that gets sewn onto the towel. So this will give me that deeper hood for my older kids, and then this part that I cut off will be used later. The downside to using the folded method or this larger hood method is that if you have a towel with a decorative edge, then you'll see that detail on only one side of the hood and it won't be symmetrical. So if that bothers you, then find a hand towel without a decorative band or use the cut in half method. It doesn't bother me because it provides a perfect space to embroider their name on the hood, which I won't do in this video, but that is my plan. So the middle of the towel is a little less than 8 inches. Add a couple inches to that gives me a 10-inch hood. So I'm just going to cut along this 10-inch line. I could mark it with pins or chalk or something, but I don't. I just eyeball it. And cutting towels can make a bit of a mess, so be prepared for tiny towel fluff bits everywhere. And this cutoff piece does not get thrown away. It will be used later to make the little hand pockets. I could just sew along the straight edge just how it is, and it gives a little pointed hood, which can be fun. But for this one, I'm going to cut off the corner and give it a more rounded hood shape. So now I just sew this cut edge together. This is my sewing machine. It's a Singer brand and was actually a gift from my mother-in-law. Thank you very much. I love it. But I wanted to show you the stitch options. So you can straight stitch, but then the seam allowance would have that fluffy raw edge. So a wide zigzag stitch would be better because you can cut off the seam allowance. But I'm actually going to use this stitch. It's a blanket stitch and is usually used to apply patches and things like that, but I'm going to use it for the seam. Make it a little wider, and it'll lock in that fluffy raw edge and stop it from making a giant mess all over their hair. So I have my 2 directions depending on which side my seam will be, but if you do not have these stitches, zigzag will work. I would just suggest making the stitch length shorter and tighter together, but then have a larger width so you can have a decent sized seam to catch all the edges. So hopefully you can see that stitch gives me almost like a serged seam. I use a different stitch for this if I had stretch fabric, but it's a nice little seam with no seam allowance really, and it's tight and secure. But that's the hood, and now I will attach it to the towel. I find the middle point by folding it in half, and then that will just match up with the seam in the hood. Now, if I just put these right sides together, then there would be the seam poking out and rubbing on my kids' necks and backs, and they don't like that. But I don't want to put wrong sides together and have the seam showing on the back of their towels either. So I'm going to do a flat seam, and it's really, really easy to do this with this project because these are both finished edges, and so there's no raw edge to try and that you have to fold in and hide it. So I mark my half point on the pool towel with a pin and lay it flat. And my seam, which is actually not matched up, but I will work with that anyways because I don't feel like ripping out that seam and doing it again. But this finished edge on the hand towel is about 1/2 inch wide and is actually a perfect marker for where the edge of the pool towel will be. So I place this edge right along or maybe just above the inside part of the hand towel edging, and then I will pin it in place. So now I have it all pinned together with the pins on this side because this will be the side that is up when I'm sewing. And since these are both finished edges, then I can just use the regular old straight stitch to attach these. And the fun part is I'm actually going to sew 2 rows of stitches. One is going to be right along the top of that wider finished edge on the hand towel. And what that's going to do is catch the top of the pool towel edge, lock that down flat. And then when I come to the end, I'm going to go down and then back across the bottom of the hand towel, and that's going to catch this edge here, so they both lie super flat and snug against each other. And this also gives the added benefit of having a reinforced seam, so that if a seam breaks, you have another to help keep it nice and tight. So now I'm going to sew these lines of straight stitches. Here is the sewn on hood with this edge sewn nice and tight, not pulling up. And then on the other side, the edge is also sewn down nice and flat, except for my offset seam right there. But if you look closely, you can see that this side has the 2 lines of stitching that I mentioned and planned for, and it looks really nice. But because of my little messed up seam right here, my lines were off and I didn't catch all the pool towel in that top line. So on this side, I added another line down the middle, and it doesn't look too bad. Both of them have this flat seam, whether it's 2 lines or 3, and it's connected and strong and not going to come loose. So the hood is on and done, and now I will add that extra little bit of the hand pockets using the piece of the towel that I cut off earlier. I'm going to take advantage once again of the already finished edge and make that the opening of the pocket. I don't want this edge part of my pocket, and I don't want the decorative border on the pocket either, so I'm going to fold those away, and what's left here, that's the material I have to work with. I don't want to measure and do math, so I'm going to use the actual corner of the towel as my template, lining up the edges until it looks good, and then I cut out both triangles at the same time. And there are my 2 corner pockets. Now, when I sew them, I could put them right on the edge like this and sew over both edges, but I'm not really happy with how that looks, and so when I do it, I line up the raw edge with the seam that's already there in the towel, so that when I'm done, hopefully it gives the appearance like it was sewn into the seams originally and not just added on after the fact. So I'm going to pin it just like this, and then I'm going to sew it with that same blanket stitch or zigzag stitch that was used on the hood. So it'll be a narrow seam that'll lock down this raw fluffy edge, tuck it in, and make it look all nice and finished. And here it is, so you can see exactly what I was talking about. Hopefully the rough cut edge is all secured by the stitching. There's nothing to pull up, and it lines up with the seams that are already in the towel. And it's a great little pocket on the inside for their hands. One side over here and another one over here, same thing, to keep their hands nice and cozy warm after a cold swim practice. Like I said, this is the blanket stitch on my machine, but a zigzag stitch should do the similar job. But that's the finished towel. It's all done, super easy, super quick, and of course, my daughters need one too, so I take the pool towels and coordinating hand towels and do it all over again. I wanted to show you the difference in the hood between sewing a straight up the cut edge, which gives you this little pointed hood and it's super cute, or cutting off the corner like I did with this one, which gives you a more rounded hood. Both are super cute, it's personal preference, and of course, both my girls have the corner hand pockets for their towels. So that is my take on the DIY hooded towel. My kids adore them, especially because they got to pick out their own style and color choices, and the bigger hood is great for my oldest, and the younger ones will grow up into it eventually. I'm excited for the warmer months to get here and to see swimsuits and towels hanging on the rack instead of jackets and scarves. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that thumbs up button and leaving me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to get notified the next time I'm making something. Thanks for watching.